Good morning and almost afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I came out on these channels for a specific purpose. The people that subscribe to these channels here are still 1A. I didn't go on my main channel for this, but I just want to have a discussion that involves the things these that my narrative uh is always pointing out: government bias, government tyranny, uh unfair due process. And I recognize something about this case. And when I did so, it 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 shirks me to the core, because whether or not people are guilty or not guilty of crimes, inside of a courtroom is where it's supposed to happen. That is what makes us different. We are innocent until proven guilty. I know it seems the other way around. I know that it's unfair. I know that our system is biased as hell. We get it. We get it. And unfortunately, there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Okay? When it comes to dealing with these things, especially when they've already happened. But when they're currently happening, and there might be a chance for somebody to actually a defendant that actually gets found guilty and goes back and looks where his attorney is not uh objecting and actually defending him in the interest of him rather than the court. So what I mean by that is, I think he's taken the court's interest. He's literally taking the court's interest, right, instead of his client's interest. So this is the problem that I have with this case that I brought up. He made this private, okay, because the jury is deliberating on this right now, okay? And so I just happened to catch it just enough time to record it. And I'm going to start it right where they start questioning, and I'm going to speed it up for you guys so you guys will know what I'm talking about, okay? You guys will get what you'll get my point. My point will be very clear. It'll be straight to the point once you hear the some parts of this case. But I don't want you to necessarily follow the facts of this case. Even though if you want to, you can. I want you to follow the facts of the quorum inside this courtroom. Okay, this is the problem that I have. And this is one of the more lenient judges, more understanding judges, more I mean, to me they're all tyrannical, because they follow operating standard procedure more than directive policy. And when Wolby says that, so let me break that down for you real quick. When Wolby says operating standard procedure, Wolby's talking about corporate law. When Wolby says directive policy, that means constitutional law. Okay, that is their language for those two definitions that define what corporate and constitutional law and the difference of. So basically, what we got here is corporate law at its best. All right, it's always it always wins or loses with the corporations in the interest of the municipalities and the state instead of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. So let's go to the fair and biased part of this, the unbiased part of this. Excuse me, rewording that for the record. Unbiased. The court is supposed to be an unbiased fact finder. That is why that man with the judge up, that man that's sitting here in this courtroom right here. You see this? All right, this dude right here is sitting there for one reason. All right, he's there to make sure that let me make sure I can see my cursor. Right? Okay, good. Yeah, you can see my cursor. This is Judge Middleton. He's there to make sure that the rules and laws and facts of quorum inside the four corners of this room in his courtroom are followed by the expectation that the tenure commission has set for him in the state of Michigan. Okay. A lot of people don't understand what the tenure commission is because a lot of people have in different states have different commissions that run their judicial system, and it's like it's not a union for judges. It is another corporation of judges. Okay. That actually is connected to the bar. You make a complaint. You can also make a complaint through the tenure commission. We have an actual second commission to where there is some good things about the tenure commission that in other states don't have. Which I could, instead of going to the bar, I could first go to the tenure commission, right? And make a complaint with the tenure commission about a judge. That's the difference in between this state and other states. So I have two remedies to file against indecent behavior or unacceptable behavior that goes against their oath. Getting back to the narrative, though, and this to me is one of those type of situations. It's borderline because he's showing the scales of justice is already tipped because you got the prosecutor and the judge and the same departments all intertwined together in most cities and states right now. All right. And they've already showed their bias. They're supposed to be separate branches of law enforcement, but they're not. And I'm going to show you where at in here. I'm going to go ahead and push play. Check this out. This is an assault and battery case in St. Joseph's County. They're going to pull a witness up for questioning. Stand by. What's up, Gorf? Good to see you in here.
I'm goofing off, but thank you. It took longer than we thought. Have a seat. Thank you, please.
Let me speed this up a little bit. So,
all right, the people have arrested. Mr. Bush, do you intend to present any evidence? Yes, we promised you. Mr. Carr, would you please come up here with the response? Please raise your right hand. You swear and affirm any testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true to the best of your knowledge and belief. Please have a seat. State your name for the record.
Scott Carr, C-K-R-R.
Mr. Bush. Mr. Carr, where do you live?
27100 Mully Landing.
And can you describe that residence to the jury, please?
Look, I'm right on the lake.
Is it a house?
It's a house. Yeah.
And what is the tax?
what's happening to my what is going on here? Sorry guys, something just happened. My live is not playing over here on my StreamYards. Audio. Why isn't it playing on my StreamYards? Let's go back and see. It's bring it back out. Let's bring it back up. Yeah, they ain't gonna stop Wooby from playing his shit. So, you know, they can go head on with the game for sure. All right, let's see if it's playing now.
When you say across the street, can you share with the jury where that is in relation?
Okay,
So
good.
it's on Bill Murray's property. I do.
So in this, they called this guy as a witness. All right, he is testifying under oath about an assault and battery. Now, the case is not what I'm actually pointing out. It's the quorum of the law and the extra privileges this prosecutor has. Okay.
Rental because I mow his lawn over there. So, I mean, the camper was sitting probably 20 feet off the road.
All right,
on the
Frank
property
Pants.
line.
Thanks. Appreciate you being
And
here,
where
brother.
is that camper in relationship to Mr. Klawinski?
What up, Debo?
Kowinski, on the back end of the camper lives 2 houses down. There's Shirley's house and Chris's house.
And the jury doesn't know who Shirley is, so you have to.
Do what?
The jury doesn't know who Shirley is.
It'd be my
Yeah,
next door neighbor.
around just to let you know, hold
How
up, let me stop this real quick. Around 1, I think about 1 or 1:15, I will have I'm releasing a good video today. You're gonna want to be there. I'll see you there.
How far did you live from Mr. Klawinski?
That'll be on the Wolverine Transparency channel.
2 houses down.
And these are fairly small lots,
Yeah,
so it's not like a half a mile.
no.
How long have you lived on Mile Lane?
Close to 2 years.
You're not on the Wolverine Transparency channel.
When you moved there, was Mr. Klawinski already living there?
But I will give you one in
Correct.
here because
think
I know
that-
you.
think it's
So
more of a summer cottage. for
I do
them.
need. Eventually,
It's
these will be
your
bigger
primary
channels, and
residence?
Yes.
I do need
You
mods. And
talked
stand
about
by.
camper. Can you describe what that is and where that's located?
I was across the road from my house. It's about, it's 42-foot grand design camper.
And do you use it some?
That was just sitting over there for storage. I bought that after my house burnt down.
So you're on 3 different channels, but Downriver Transparency, you will have a
lives with you?
mod in here.
Oh, just my dog.
Let's
Well,
see.
tell us about your dog.
Black Lab, Sasha.
How old?
She's 2.5.
I don't know
Sasha
where'd you come in at? Did you come in at
Yeah, I can't keep her.
Okay, you probably came in at down. Or what are you on? Did you come in at Wolverine Cop Watch?
September 4th of
Damn,
2020.
damn.
Do you have recollection of that day?
Yes.
Were
Frank
you
Pants, you
alcohol?
gotta answer me real quick, dude.
You were sober?
Yep.
What channel did you come in
Some point,
under?
Did you come in contact with a pontoon boat with Mr. Klawinski that day?
And I'm throwing the frisbees so my dog can go out and fetch them. Well, one of them got lobbed wrong. It just went over his pontoon.
How far away was the pontoon from you when it got lobbed wrong?
Not very far. No, I mean, it went right over the top of this pontoon.
And what kind of frisbee is this?
And they're frisbee.
And when you would throw it, what,
Just a minute, Nerf frisbee?
Yeah.
all right. Is that foam?
No, well, it's a rubber. It's a rubber. There's yellow ones that I buy and the blue ones.
All right, cool
And when
man.
you would
Luke.
throw
All
it,
right,
what would
cool.
Sasha do?
She'll jump right in the lake. You'll fetch them.
And swim it back to you?
Pardon me?
And swim back to you with? the-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Where is it?
When did you start throwing the frisbee to Sasha that you?
I do it all day.
Can you remember the pontoon boat with Mr.
Yes, yes.
So one could have gone over the pontoon boat, one of your frisbee
Yeah, it
throws?
did, it did.
Garth, you're a moderator in here too
intentional?
as well. So both of y'all are moderators.
What happened as a result of that frisbee going over the pontoon boat?
Well, he
Did you hear me, eyes?
Are you trying to hit me? I said, no.
He again is Mr. Kalinsky.
Correct.
All right, you're good.
Was there fingers being flipped?
No,
Profanity from either one of
It's all
you?
good.
no, that's all that was said.
What happened after that?
Well, I go over, look at my camper. I think I had my battery compartment open. Or my, the generator and the battery was.
So you left the lakefront.
Correct.
Where
You
did,
know, after a while, you know, I'm still throwing frisbees at Sasha.
did the pontoon go out?
Yeah, they just.
I'm gonna speed this up just a little
figure
bit.
around the lake.
So at some point you left the
Oh,
lakefront.
even a little faster than that.
Yeah, I get what time that was.
So
I
it's
think I
gonna
was over
sound
the
kind of
camera.
fast because
So we're talking.
again, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to establish here, I want to point out to you the quorum, which is the rules and behavior and code of conduct inside of a courtroom. Okay. How the prosecution has extra privileges, and it's not supposed to be this way.
September, was it plenty of daylight?
Oh, yeah.
And again, share with the jury what you were doing at camp.
Either I was charging my battery or putting another battery in the compartment.
Remember the typical for you to go over to the camp?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Remember what you were wearing?
Just shorts, no shoes.
Yeah, sure. That.
Yeah.
Kind of typical summer lake clothes.
Correct.
So the witness himself is the defendant. He's being charged with assault and battery.
At some point, you come in contact with Mr. Kalinsky.
Well, he came over to me.
Can you give the jury today a timeline of when that may have been?
I was thinking about, well, 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I mean, there's still plenty of daylight.
Were you expecting him?
No.
Did you invite him to come over?
No.
So where were you when you encountered Mr. Kalinsky?
Around my battery compartment. That's when you come over.
You said that this was working on the camp.
Yeah, yeah.
What happened?
We come over and started asking me about the frisbee.
How did you respond to
Well, I
that?
could smell the alcohol in his breath. And I could see, I mean, he was doing a little bit stagger.
How did you respond to the frisbee question?
I said, Chris, I wasn't trying to hit you.
What
And
happened?
then he started to raise his voice, then he tapped me on the shoulder.
Then what happened?
We got a scuffle with our,
Just to let everybody know, there's 3 channels being streamed right now. You got Wolverine Cop Watch, Kuhan Luke, and Donover Transparency. Just letting you know. So when you come in, when you say I'm here, let me know where you came from so I know. Just in case I want to start putting mods on here. And you know, as it grows, I will be doing it.
our hands. I went for his shirt right up here, and I was able to just get him down on the ground. I ended up landing on top of him.
Were any punches thrown?
No, I did not do any punches.
What was the ground? You were on gravel,
Well,
dirt, asphalt?
he went to the grass. And I scraped the space on the grass.
Did you threaten to kill him?
No,
So he just described what we know as physical contact, right?
Did you make any threats?
no.
How did you end? I mean,
Well, I let him back up, and he just walked away.
were you
Awesome.
interested?
Cajoneery
He's a big guy.
214. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
You didn't have shoes.
Sorry if I'm not.
I hardly ever wear shoes.
Welcome. Thank you. I hope you're subscribed to all my channels,
How long did you
especially
say
Wolverine
before having shoes?
Transparency.
When he left, did you see any injuries?
No.
Okay. Was Sasha there?
She would have been in probably the house.
Was anybody else in proximity when this incident occurred?
No.
Did you call any law enforcement officers?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carr, it's true that you made a statement to the police, correct?
I don't remember what time this was in the morning. I'm thinking around 2 o'clock in the morning when they came to my house.
But you talked to the police, correct?
We have to get up out of bed.
And you understand that you have to be truthful with the police, correct?
Right, yeah.
And you told the police that you took Mr. Klawinski to the ground by his neck, correct?
Well,
Correct?
I didn't write in here. I don't recall that.
So is that a yes or no?
I just don't recall
All
that.
right, well, let me stop you, Mr. Carr. This
Yeah.
is cross-examination.
Yeah.
Mr. Bush asked you some questions on direct examination. This is the prosecutor. So she's not asking you to expound on anything at this point. She just wants you to answer her question. And she asks you yes or no. You can
I'm gonna say
answer
no.
yes or no. All right.
Okay, so you didn't tell the police anything about Mr. Klawinski touching you first, correct?
No,
Okay, you didn't make any other statements to the police other than
No.
the ones that were mentioned.
because I wasn't sure what was going on there.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
What time do you think you were talking to Deputy Brooks?
I'm like, boy, 1:30 in the morning, maybe later than that.
Were you sleeping?
Oh, yeah.
So he's establishing that all the lights and the police lights and all that, he's establishing that he was sleeping. He was interruptedly woken up abruptly, and he's half asleep. And whatever he told the police at the time, he basically is changing that up because he's saying he doesn't recall. And that is very important to understand. When somebody gets woken up in the middle of the night, you can't expect somebody to always recall what they said at that time.
How did you wake up?
Well, my dog woke me up barking because all of a sudden we see all these lights going around my whole house. I wasn't sure what was going on.
Thank you. No further questions. All right, Mr. Carr, you
So now the prosecutor, watch what the prosecutor does here.
step down. Anything further, Mr. Bush? Defense Officer, any rebuttal, Ms. Strong?
Your Honor, I would like to recall Mr. Klawinski to the stand for just a brief moment.
All right. You would also list a potential witness of Ann Polinsky.
Yes, Your Honor, the people do not intend to call her at this time.
All right.
Okay, so they're not recalling Ann Klinsky. All right, so let's fast forward some of this to him getting up there because Judge Middleton's like me. He likes to talk a lot. He's very thorough. That's what I like about him. Even though he acts tyrannical at times.
Ms. Strong has some additional questions for you.
Thank you, Your Honor. On September 4th, 2021, had you been drinking?
No,
And when you approached Mr. Carr, did you touch him in any manner before he assaulted you?
No.
On his shoulder? Okay, and remind us at the time, what was your physicality? What did you look like?
it's 10. What do you want? My blood sugar was getting up over 500.
What was that last part?
My blood sugar was getting up over 500.
Okay, so you did not touch Mr. Carr at any time before he touched you? Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Bush?
So obviously the salt is in between these two gentlemen here. The guy before him and this one that was on the stand here.
All right, Mr. Polinsky, you can step down.
All right, now
All right, any additional
they're
evidence?
going to go. I'm going to speed this up. They're going to go in their closing arguments. The judge says the prosecutor always goes first, blah, blah, blah. The defense will go second and in their closing arguments, and then you go deliberate, right? Check it out.
No doubt that the defendant committed a battery on Chris Klawinski.
This is the prosecutor going first.
And I do believe that the defendant
Hold up a second.
Prosecutor goes first. Mr. Bush has an opportunity to make his argument, and the prosecutor has a burden of proof, so they go last. Ms. Strong, I'd like to hear your closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, this is the prosecution, guys. Listen very close.
Members of the jury, as Your Honor mentioned, this is a straightforward trial. We have heard the testimony, we've seen the evidence, you have the photos of the victim, and now we are at closing arguments. So we've heard from the witnesses and we've seen the evidence, and I do believe that the defendant, we have proved that the defendant is guilty of assault and battery. Let's think back to the morning when we talked about the elements of assault and battery.
She said she believes.
Before you go to deliberations, the judge will instruct you on the elements of assault and battery. So if anything that I say differs from his instruction, please defer to his instruction. But to be guilty of an assault and battery, one, I must prove beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant committed a battery on Chris Klawinski. A battery is a forceful, violent, or offensive touching of the person or something closely connected to the person of another without permission. It does not need to be, there does not need to be an actual injury. We know that there is in this case, but touching is enough, as long as that touching was intentional and without permission.
You guys hear that? Now, we can use this as precedent in the future when people are saying, when people are not admitting on the law enforcement side that these are actual assault and batteries. It's unwanted touching, and you don't need to be hurt or sustain an injury to make that an assault and battery. That's what she just said, and he didn't object to it, so it is a fact.
So we heard from the victim, Mr. Kowinski, and he told us in great detail that the defendant hit him multiple times. There was some evidence that Mr. Kowinski might have touched him first, but we heard from Mr. Kowinski that that's not true. He says he went over there to have a conversation with his neighbor. He was punched in the face. He was taken to the ground. The defendant told us that he took him to the ground, and he was threatened. His life was threatened. He was held down and threatened and punched. That is an assault and battery. So that is an offensive touching of the person without permission. Not only did we hear from Mr. Kowinski and see the photos, but we heard from Officer Brooks that the defendant admitted to taking Mr. Kowinski to the ground by the neck because he didn't like how he was talking to him. He makes a big deal about Mr. Kowinski being in his throwing lane, and he talks about the frisbee. We're not here for a frisbee throwing today. We're here for an assault and battery. Anything leading up to the assault and battery is part of the story, but your consideration should be made on the facts presented about the assault and battery. So the crime is assault and battery, and the defendant committed this crime. The evidence, members of the jury, that proves that the defendant committed a battery upon Mr. Kowinski and proves the first element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, as to the second element, two, that the defendant intended to commit a battery upon Chris Kowinski or make him reasonably fear an immediate battery. We know that the defendant intended to assault the victim. We can use our common sense to make that determination, but we also know that because he told the officer that he took the victim to the ground by the neck. Later, the judge will remind you to reach a verdict and use your common sense. Common sense tells us that someone who assaults another person, unprovoked, intends to commit a battery. Therefore, the second element of the crime is met. Finally, our housekeeping elements. I have to prove to you that the date the offense took place, the location of that offense, and that the defendant was the one who committed that crime. So we've heard from each of the witnesses that this crime occurred on September 4th, 2021. We heard that from Mr. Kowinski, we heard that from Officer Brooks, and we heard that from the defendant. We also heard that this took place near the defendant and Mr. Kowinski's property. We know that that is in Sherman Township, County of St. Joseph, State of Michigan. Finally, we've heard from each of the witnesses that the defendant was the person who committed this crime. So all three elements of the location, the identification, and the date have been met beyond a reasonable doubt. The last thought I want to leave you with is to talk to you about your role as a juror. The role in this trial proceeding, as the judge will later explain, is to hold me to my burden of proof, to make sure that I've proved every element beyond a reasonable doubt. Your decision should be based on the law that will be explained by the judge and the evidence that has been admitted and presented. For all of these reasons, based on all of the testimony that has been presented today, I ask that you look back. We have one assault when he punched him multiple times. We have two assaults when he took him to the ground. And he also threatened his life. For all of those reasons, members of the jury, I ask that you find Mr. Carr guilty of assault.
All right. That's all we need to hear from her. So the judge calls Mr. Bush takes over, and that's the state pretender there.
Mr. Bush,
Here we go.
this is my last opportunity to talk to the collective six of you tonight. Ms. Strong carries a burden of proof, and she may elect to make a final closing argument. She gets the last word. I do think the court.
Did you hear what he just said? That's another thing that is bothering me. When I went through a trial on several times myself back in the 80s, and I believe like 91, the early 90s, I have never seen a prosecutor get so much leeway. It was the prosecutor went last most of the time. Okay. They did have the last word, but she just got done in closing arguments to say what she gets to say. And she just asked them to find him guilty, right? And he just said, listen to what he just said. You hear him say it clearly. Well, the prosecutor gets the last word. That's not true.
This is my last opportunity to talk to the collective six of you tonight. Ms. Strong carries a burden of proof, and she may elect to make a final closing argument. She gets the last word.
You hear that? She already made her closing argument. All right. So I'm going to speed this up no matter what. No matter what happens in this trial, I'm going to show you. I'm going to speed this up a little bit so you guys can understand
Pretty
it.
much Scott and Chris. if you want to get right down to it, what happened, what didn't happen, why it happened last September. You've seen the elements of the crime. Are you going to see the elements of the crime? Things are pretty clear. Scott was on his rented property, minding his own business in the evening. There have been issues that it sounds like they don't get along. The court's not going to change that today. The Klinskys and the Cars are not the best of friends. That's pretty clear. Uninvited, Mr. Klinsky comes to Scott's property and their words exchange. And apparently it became physical. You didn't hear Scott deny that it got physical. You didn't hear Scott deny that they ended up on the ground. The issue was his behavior reasonable in light of what he saw and observed? I wasn't there. Prosecutor wasn't there. You'll have to figure out what happened. If he was touched, and that does change the circumstances. You'll have to make that decision. He has taken the same oath everybody else took today. He said that he didn't make the threats. He didn't punch anybody. We do have injuries. It's a tragic, sad situation, but you're here to determine if it was a criminal situation. Judge Milton is going to give you instructions, and they're important because you're going to have to become jurors to decide this case. I'm not asking that you like or dislike Mr. Carr or like or dislike Mr. Klinsky. All I'm asking is that he get a fair, unbiased, and impartial verdict. That's all anybody can ask who's charged with a crime. We're not here to judge good people or bad people, good neighbors or bad neighbors. That isn't the facts here today. The question is, was he guilty of assault, or was he acting in reasonable self-defense based upon the facts and circumstances as he perceived them? Mr. Carr put his confidence in the jury system. The judge told you in the early instructions, that's part of the foundation of our country, the constitutional right to trial by jury of peers, which are here today. I ask you to review all the elements of the crime and find Scott.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I do get the last word because I am the prosecutor in this matter. Mr. Carr did not make any statements to law enforcement about self-defense. We heard from Mr. Klinsky that he did not touch Mr. Carr prior to this altercation. We heard from the police officer that Mr. Carr had no injuries and Mr. Klinsky has blood on his face. This case comes down to common sense. And I ask that each one of you apply your common sense, the elements of the crime, and make the only fair and best verdict of guilty. Thank you. He has blood on his face. We heard from Mr. Klinsky that he did not touch Mr. Carr prior to this altercation.
That and reflect on what you've seen and heard today and make an informed decision. I agree much of what
It's a big deal about Mr. Klinsky being in his throwing lane. He talks about the frisbee. We're not here for a frisbee. We've heard from each of the witnesses and the evidence that Carr guilty.
Mr. Bush? This is my last opportunity to talk to the collective six of each.
I want you to listen to what, oh man, I was muted the whole time. Damn it. I got to repeat everything I just said. The point that I'm trying to make is that Jeffrey Middleton, he needs to be rebuked. Okay? What you've heard is the two witnesses testified. I showed you that part, okay? And then because remember, this is not about whether he's guilty or not. This is about the rules in court and rules and quorum of the court, okay? And how this judge is not supposed to be biased. He's not supposed to show any type of prejudice whatsoever. And his job, according to 8.115, he's supposed to have those flags sitting at him from his light behind him to his right and left. He's supposed to wear the black robe, and he's supposed to distinguish the facts in every case and present people their Miranda rights and go and follow the rules and laws and the quorum of the law of quorum in the courtroom, in them four corners in that courtroom. Okay, that he has full control over it. All right, and he's not supposed to be biased at all. So why would you allow the prosecutor to speak twice, right? In closing, remember, closing arguments. I am now closing. Here's what I have to say. As soon as I'm done saying what I'm saying, there is a period to it and there's no more. It now goes to the jury. Same with him. When the defense is done, it's that. But listen what the defense says. He agrees that he's not going to have the last word. Listen to this shit. Listen to this, man. This is a bunch of crack right here.
Ms. Strong carries the burden of proof, and she may elect to make.
Watch this. I'm going to slow this down. I want y'all to hear this really good. This is not justice at all. When the scales are tipped.
Collective six of each. Ms. Strong carries the burden of proof, and she may elect to make a final closing argument. She gets the last word.
You hear that? She gets the last word. Why? She just had the last word in her closing argument. Anybody want to answer that? Because I know I've been through it. I'm talking out of experience, not just having a bare pie. Put the stupid ass paralegal degree aside. I don't even give a damn about that no more because I forgot half everything I learned. But the point I'm telling you is that me being in and out of the system, I know the rules and laws and the quorum of a courtroom. And one goes first and one goes last. And it's usually the prosecutor that has the last word. 9 times out of 10, it usually is. Okay? They're not supposed to have first and then a closing argument, and then the defense have a closing argument, and then for the prosecutor to stand up again and have that, because I want you to listen to that one more time, what he just said. Listen to what he just said. This right here is where we need to take that. He needs to take this to the highest court of the nation and have this judge rebuked.
Mr. Bush?
Mr. Bush is the defense attorney.
This is my last opportunity to talk to the collective six of each. Ms. Strong carries the burden of proof, and she may elect to make a final closing argument. She gets the last word.
You hear that? Didn't we just hear her make her closing argument? Why should she have another word? Because the scales have been tipped. This is not justice. It's not. Because listen to what she says right here. I'm going to speed it up. After Mr. Bush is done, she already made her closing argument. Now she gets to stand up and say this again.
I will now instruct you on the law. That
The crime. We
Let's victimize the constitutional right to a trial by jury with peers, which are here today. I ask you to review all the elements of victimize and find Scott not guilty. Thank you.
Okay, that was the defense. He put a period to his closing argument. He's done talking.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I do get the last word because I am the prosecutor in this matter. Mr. Carr did not make any statements to law enforcement about self-defense. We heard from Mr. Klawinski that he did not touch Mr. Carr prior to this altercation. We heard from the police officer that Mr. Carr had no injuries and Mr. Klawinski has blood on his face.
Okay, she already said that in her closing argument. She already said all that. She's doubling down and then taking the words of the defense, right, and his closing argument and rebutting them. So she's gaslighting, or no, she's controlling through. If you're doing something that is not in the best interest of unbiased and fairness, that's called corrosive control. You are now controlling the tips of and the scales of justice. This is a jury. They have their own judge of character. They already heard your argument. And Book Helmet, if you've heard that and you haven't pointed that out, let me tell you something. I have a paralegal degree. I know the rules and laws and the quorum of the court. It has always been opening and closing statements. What do you think closing statements means? When you make a closing statement, it by its definition says it all. You're closing. So your last words in your closing argument, there's a period to it and there is no more. It goes to the jury. Why is she allowed to stand back up? Because they are tyrants. That is tyrannical. That is not justice. That is not just. Just means the scales. If you look at Lady Justice, she's holding scales. And if you're putting something on the end of that scale, you got 50 ounces over here, you got 50 ounces over here. Now there's 51. Now the scale has just been tipped. Don't be surprised if they find him guilty, because she got the double, triple down. This is bullshit.
This case comes down to common sense. And I ask that each one of you apply your common sense, the elements of the crime, and make the only fair and just verdict of guilty.
Okay, now let's go back to her original closing statement when it should have been. Let's listen to those last words she said. Let's listen.
As he went over there.
Yeah, I want to listen. I want to hear her last sentence.
To commit a battery upon Chris Klawinski or make him reasonably fear Brooks, and we've heard from each of the role in this trial presented today. I ask that you look back. We have one assault when he punched him multiple times. We have two assaults when he took him to the ground, and he also threatened his life. For all of those reasons, members of the jury, I ask that you find Mr. Carr guilty of assault and battery.
There you go. So now she's asking twice, because she got to listen to oh boy and counteract some of what his closing statement was. How is that fair? Anybody would like to chime in on that? Or do I need to go on my big channel to get people that will come in and say, no, that's wrong. People that know better. Do y'all know better? If you're not, I'm teaching you right now. That is unbiased. That is not the way the court is supposed to run. You are not supposed to, especially when you're dealing with a jury. The jury is now tainted, thinking that the prosecution has more authority than the freaking defendant. The defendant has not been found guilty yet. The defendant has just as much as authority as the prosecution. They are even in the scales in the eyes of the law. That's the way it was supposed to. I just thought it was another weird American thing. No, it's not, brother. It's not another weird American thing. It's another weird here. Let me help you here. Let me articulate it and see if I can get you to agree with me. All right, Book Hermit. Excuse me. Forgive me for butchering your name. I didn't mean to do that. I have bifocals, so I have to look 3 times, sometimes. But listen, here's the deal, bro. Okay, what is fair? If the state has somebody, if a defendant, which is the state prosecutor, has somebody speaking for them, so does the defendant having somebody speaking for them. Should they be equal? Yes or no? Book Hermit, I'm talking to you. Yes? Okay, good. You're giving me a thumbs up. So, I'm talking about what's fair. Common sense, we all know, the majority of us know what fair, and the majority of us know what right and wrong is. If you are over the age of 21 years old, even 18, but I'm going to say more accountable if you're 21, okay? Because you are a full adult then. You should know right and wrong. You might not have wisdom, but you have intelligence and you have understanding. That's good enough for me to be responsible for your actions and to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. That man that spoke for his client, I believe now is a double agent and he's working against his client. I do not believe that this man is working for his client, because right here, he admits to this and he should be barred. He should be barred for not sticking up for his client. He should be, if anything, he should say, well, she's going to have the last word and I object to it, Your Honor. But he didn't do that. This is what he said. This is what he said.
To the ground, the defendant told unprovoked crime. So all 3 elements of the law hold me to presented today. We have.
Let me find it. This right here should stay in his file forever too. Listen to his complicity.
Bush.
That was Jeffrey Middleton, Judge Jeffrey Middleton, saying, Mr. Bush, proceed with your closing argument, right? And the first fucking words, Lord, you know what? Forgive me, guys. I didn't mean to cuss. Dang it. Now I can't monetize. Anyway, the first freaking thing that comes out this guy's mouth is his complicity, him understanding that she's still going to have the last word, even though she already went. She already had her turn. Listen very close.
This is my last opportunity to talk to the collective 6 of each time.
This is my last opportunity to talk to you.
Ms. Strong carries the burden of proof, and she may.
The prosecutor carries the burden of proof. I'm going to be your interpreter here.
Like to make a final closing argument. She gets the last word.
She gets the last word. Wait a minute. Why in the Sam hell do they get that privilege? You know that is a privilege, right? Because that's not a quorum no more. You are not in the quorum of the privileges of the court, you're not in the quorum of rule of thumb of law no more, because she already had her turn, right? You are allowed to rebut and recall a witness during trial phase. But when you are going into your closing arguments, you say what you say, they say, and the prosecutors say what they say, and then the judge gives jury instructions in this specific case. Sometimes there's mitigating circumstances that he has to articulate to them. Okay. And rules of a quorum of the court. It's not happening here, man. Look, Judge Middleton is one of the better judges, but sir, today you get an F for fucked over. You fucked over a client. You don't care because you are so used to doing what you do, you don't give a shit. You have a narcissistic value. I've been watching you for a long time. I can make a movie out of you, and I won't do it because it's giving you too much attention, and the bootlickers will love it. But I'm here today to rebuke you. You know what? I did not take a code. I did not take an oath to swear to protect all the citizens in a certain area in this good, beautiful country we live in, and swear an oath to protect their rights, nor did I swear an oath to honor a code of conduct, sir. You did. You are now today, you're in the fucked up Wolbies, fucked over. I'm gonna create an acronym for it. But it's tyranny. Okay? That is tyranny. And when that is a due process violation, and they need to throw that case out, and she needs to another prosecutor needs to come in, refile it, and a judge needs to say whether or not that needs to go forward because of the due process violation.
I do thank the court, the prosecutor, for the courtesy during this case today, and thank the 6 of you that have taken time in your lives to listen to this case this morning. It wasn't the longest trial, certainly one of the shorter ones I've tried, but it wasn't a waste of your time, and it's not insignificant. This is an important matter, and you have a solemn duty to complete that today.
Everything he's about to say don't even matter, because guess what? Watch this. Watch this.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I do get the last word because I am the prosecutor in this matter.
Wow. Let me translate that for you. I am the authority here by the guy in the black robe that is biased against my defense, against the person we're prosecuting, both of us. So 33% now, instead of 66% of this building is against you. 66% of this building is now against you, and you have a 33% chance of winning. That's what that means.
Mr. Carr did not make any statements to law enforcement about self-defense. We heard from Mr. Klawinski that he did not touch Mr. Carr prior.
Didn't we already hear that in cross-examination? Didn't we already hear that in her closing argument? Why? She's just putting it in different words.
To this altercation. We heard from the police officer that Mr. Carr had no injuries and Mr. Klawinski has blood on his face. This case comes down to common sense. And I ask that each one of you apply your common sense, the elements of the crime, and make the only fair and just verdict of guilty.
See, the only verdict, she's gaslighting them. She just gaslit the jury. The only verdict there possibly could be is guilty, because I'm the authority and the judge is allowing me to step up out of turn and double down and beg you to listen to me, because 66% of the mob here is against this defendant. That's all that I'm hearing, guys. I'm telling you the way it is. That is the real deal. Holyfield right there. Wolverine is telling you the real deal. I don't give a damn if he's guilty or not. What he does is he has rights. And his rights are being violated. Just like when we come on the scene and we're recording victims in a crime scene, or the crime scene itself, not the victims, because Wolverine don't record victims. I did not, and if I do, I will take them out. 9 times out of 10, if I accidentally let it go through, that's because it's in error. But and it's live. But I'm not going to zoom in on them. I do not record victims. All right. But when I am looking at the due process in the Fifth Amendment, you have a right to due process. And if they're not following the chain and custody of evidence and preserving evidence, it is as good as a booger in my nose is to you. That would be the equivalence of me rolling a booger and handing it to you. Are you going to do anything with that booger? Are you even going to take it? Hell no. It's nasty. It's disgusting. It's contaminated. And that is why they don't want our cameras on the fucking scene. That is why these things happen. Hear me and hear me good, ladies and gentlemen. The scales of justice are tipped all the time, and we're sick of it. We're sick of it. We're sick of the monopoly that the police unions have on us. We're sick on the monopoly that you have gaslit me to make me believe all these years that because you are the law and everything that comes out of your mouth, I gotta obey like you're a god. That is a effing lie. That is not the truth. I proved it to you yesterday or the day before when I went down and got our brother, one of our A1 brothers, out of jail. I was prepared to either bond him out or getting him released one way or another. I was going to get him released. He shouldn't have took the ride to begin with. He did not break no laws. He set up tape. There was a demarcation line. He came out of the demarcation line all butthurt, using his fingers, telling them, and he even complied with that under duress. He kept backing up because they were a threat to him. They looked like they were going to go hands-on. They kept walking as he kept backing up. And the only thing that happened there was a back and forth debate because he was within his rights to redress that lieutenant. I am not going to fill out that paperwork yet. I am going to wait until they come back and give him their little stupid response. And then I will rebut that into that, and I'll make sure that lieutenant either gets more training, not paying for more training, unpaid training is going to be part of this. And he might lose his bar. He might get busted down to a sergeant, if not lower. Because what he did was violate the law when he did that to public tour. And they think that's okay. No, it's no big deal. He did it in good faith. Bullshit. Bullshit. That's all, man. I mean, if anybody else got anything they want to say, they say. I'm just looking at these scales here. I know nobody's perfect. I get it. Nobody is perfect. I am not anti-cop. And Judge Middleton, if you for some reason see this, my rebuke comes from my heart. And I am your boss because I'm a taxpayer in the state of Michigan. And I have a lot more people in power than you do around me. You just don't see them because they're called the stewards. They're called the taxpayers. We are the boss. And I have, even though those people stand behind you, they do under duress. The people that come and stand behind me willingly come because they see your error. And the majority, and just to let you know, in my analytics, the people that are listening to me are me and your age, sir. Just to let you know, these ain't kids just listening to me. I got about 14% millennials listening to me. My audience is pretty much from 40 to 70. Okay? I think it's at 65. All right? So there you go, sir. It is the stewards. You hear me? Don't go to your narcissism and say, let me look this guy up. Oh, no. Oh, so yeah. So yeah, he got his stuff. He thinks he's not a criminal because he got his stuff abolished and he got it taken off his record and expunged his record. No. Don't you dare do that, because now you're profiling me. Don't look at the facts that I just gave to you. Where is it in the book of fairness that she gets to go first and last? Since when? Remember what the good book says. Who think they'll be first shall be last, and who shall be last will be first. Understand that, Mr. Middleton. If you have the narcissism of what you have built this empire and your reputation on is a lot of narcissism. I'm not saying you're a narcissistic. I'm saying them are all narcissistic traits. I'm saying that if you're listening to public opinion, I want to remind you of one thing. And I promise you, you even know somebody that is your friend. I know this for a fact. That you have friends that has been in a jail cell at least once or twice. Okay? Understand that over 2/3 of America has been in a jail cell at least once or twice. Think about that. Let that marinate for a second. Because you guys don't understand that public opinion around 2014 has connected the dots on something. It is, let's go by your rules of preponderance of the laws. It is more likely than not likely that we know that blue line that goes through the middle of that flag that is on some police cars out there that shouldn't be on there because it's for commercial use, and that is not a commercial car that's bought by the taxpayers, and it's under color of law. The blue line that they wear on their uniforms is out of code. It's unbecoming an officer. You shouldn't be putting that on there. That's like putting pictures and figures of peace signs on there. You can't put that on there. Why the hell you think you can put that blue line flag on there? Because, and this is a rebuke for both institutions and where they come from, because Antifa and BLM are just concepts, even though they got contributions and they became a 501c3. They are not real organizations at all. They're not. We all know it. But that blue line, they're connected to unions. Now, flipping the next page on the same issue. Back in 2014, when that Ferguson issue happened, we know that it was a false narrative. See, I'm gonna tell the truth. I don't care what people think about the truth, because this is the facts. Yes, BLM was created on a false narrative in Ferguson. Hands up, don't shoot. We all know damn well that Obama, being an African American, that allowed his African American DOJ to go up in there in Ferguson and investigate the investigators. And the Department of Justice found 9 witnesses that were of color that gave statements that put the facts into play, that his hands wasn't just up, they were around the neck of the police officer and was trying to hurt the police officer because the guy just got done committing a violent crime called unarmed robbery. They found him, the police officer, and everything, that it was righteous, and I stand behind that action. Nobody should come up. That's the equivalence, and I want everybody to hear me in here. That's the equivalence of somebody coming up in your house and taking something off of your shelf and walking out of your house and then pushing you out of the way as they did it. Because that's exactly what that dude did. I don't even want to say his name. And he caused all this ruckus, and people got behind it. For what? I told you I'm not a race baiter. I won't race bait. But I do know that racism exists, and I know it exists in a real deep manner on both sides, in both ranks. I know more black people that are racist than white people. And they're both equally wrong. Just like this judge and the narrative that they put behind these police officers that are pulling people over and collecting evidence under color of law when they have and going out of their bargaining agreement and their code of conduct that is connected to their oath of office. They are in error. They are not where they belong. It doesn't take a GED to say the truth. And because BLM and the blue line flag happened at the same time, the only reason why that flag came out was in the fallout of BLM. Blue Lives Matter. And now you have upgraded tyrannical people in a position in good faith to even violate people's rights more, because you are gaslighting the public to make them believe that you're the good guys when you are not always the good guys. That is a lie. It's a manipulation, and I'm not buying it. And anybody that does, you're a sheeple. You need to grow up. You need to look at the facts. You need to drop your right. You need to drop your left. You need to look at the damn truth for what it is, not what you want it to be. Not because it's your. Wait a minute. Does this go against the people that I vote for? Oh, wait. I'm for law and order. Yep, that blue line. Yeah, I got to stand behind bullshit. No, you don't. I proved that at a Trump rally. That turned into a Trump rally right there on 59. When me and Broken System, Broken Trust was trolling the Trumpsters, even though I voted for Donald Trump. When I was in the voting realms, because the Democrats have screwed me over so many times in the past. There's nobody like a John F. Kennedy and a Bill Clinton. They are the best tyrants I've ever seen. The worst tyrants I've ever seen was in dereliction of duty was Jimmy Carter and Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. when they created all this color coordinated bullshit that goes against us, that might be connected to one of your political figures. that might make you turn bias against me because you're not willing to drop your prejudice thoughts. You're not willing to do it. So if you're not willing to do it, and you're behind people that wants to press against people like this Orwellian totalitarian right here, because that's what that's what he is now. He's allowing things. I am now aware that he's allowing this. Just, I don't give a damn if it says it. I don't care if they wrote it. I don't care if they voted on it and said that the prosecutor can always have the last word. That is bias as fuck. It's supposed to be fair and impartial. I don't want to hear this shit. The only thing that's going to set us free is us. It's not going to be the truth. It's got to start within you to stand up for the truth. First, you got to be willing to stand. Stand your lazy ass up and get out there and record. Start recording these people. The same people that were out there recording during World War II when the Nazis were violating other people's rights, not Jews, Caucasian people that had a Jewish faith. Them were Caucasians, ladies and gentlemen. That wasn't a black or a white thing. Quit calling that racism. It was a madman and genocide. I believe that's why old girl on The View got rebuked, Whoopi Goldberg, because it had nothing to do with racism. She's right. If you look at it, just because he was trying to create a super race, it might have been bias towards everybody else. But I believe it was a false narrative, and I knew that he wasn't going to fix it. I know this, that he was killing Caucasian people because I had brown hair and blue eyes. He would have murdered me. Flat out, point blank, he would have murdered me. Okay? So it wasn't about racism, was it? Because he's killing Caucasians. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm just out here educating people and showing you how this runs concurrent. If you're listening to me, this runs concurrent with all the different things that happen in this great country, that they run concurrent with truth. I am so sorry. If you are not on or subscribe to Kuhan Luke, I suggest you do it. I'll put it up in here because, see, eventually I want these conversations to go to Kuhan Luke, because the narrative of Kuhan Luke was they couldn't break him. And he told the fucking truth every time. And he died for the fucking truth. He died on his principles, guys. That's me, man. I've always been that way. I'm shutting down Down Over Transparency. If you're on there, go to Kuhan Luke, because this is done. People that are on Kuhan Luke, if you're still here, I'll leave it going for a couple more minutes, but here's the facts. Understand the facts of what I'm trying to get accomplished today. The facts is that I watched a court proceeding. I'm not looking at his guilt or non-guilt. I'm talking about his due process. His due process was violated. And again, this is the second time in this guy's courtroom that I've heard a defendant and their counsel biasly tip the scales and allow it Just like I heard another one describe a crime that the judge was looking for in another case and help the prosecution. We're sick of it, man. Get your shit together, guys. It doesn't matter if you're an officer of the court. You swore an oath to the Constitution to protect my rights. You are there in official capacity. Everything that happens between me and you is attorney-client privilege. Whether you know that I'm guilty or not, I have a right to a defense, and you're supposed to give me the best defense possible. That narrative either stands or it falls on the false narrative. I gotta go. Y'all have a good day. I'm back quiet reading the mail.